If you're watching this video and doing something else, you better stop because you're not good at multitasking. Hey, welcome back to Blunt Force Business. I'm Brian LaFauci.
And I'm Patrick Marino.
And today we are talking about drinking coffee, patting our head, and rubbing our belly all at the same time.
And chewing
Which
gum.
would be difficult because now I just thought about that. I'm like, well, what hand am I drinking my coffee with? And, maybe you're rubbing my belly.
I didn't think about it too hard.
I did the visual. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense at all. Multitasking. The thing we all do, and we're all so fucking good
One thing
at
we
it,
all
too.
say we do.
We are so good. Aren't we all so good at it?
Right.
Oh, we're all the best. I'm the best multitasker ever. Sometimes I'll listen to a whole audiobook in the car while I'm thinking about other things, and then I have to back up the chapter immediately.
Well, it's a big part of recruitment. It's something people say on a resume, and it's also something people request in a job description. Requires multitasking.
Yeah.
The job requires multitasking.
You know what?
And then people say I'm really good at multitasking.
You know what our blunt force fact about that is?
It's not true. Something like that.
It's pretty damn close. Blunt force fact number one for today about multitasking is divided we fall.
Right.
We try to divvy up these tasks and we think we're so good at doing them all. You ever been on the phone with someone? My real estate business partner does this all the time. And I've just become so accustomed to it that I just am patient with it. But you ever been on the phone with someone and you know they're not really paying attention?
Yeah.
And
Have you ever been on the phone with me and you know I'm not really paying attention?
I don't know.
When you say business partner, were you talking about me?
No, my real estate partner. I always feel like you're pretty good on the phone with. He's blatantly. I'll go and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to start this all over from like 5 minutes ago. Well, because I'll hear the click, click, click.
I'm also classic where it's like if I've got a meeting, that means I can get something done.
Yeah, some
Which
meetings.
is not really the best way to do it,
No,
right?
some meetings.
Because then people calling you like, oh yeah, what do you think of this? I'm here's what I kind of was thinking before. I started trying to do this other thing.
The classic Zoom. You just froze for a minute. What can you back up? Your computer
Sorry,
froze.
I was on mute.
We all think we're good at it, though. What do the stats say?
I don't know. I think that the last thing I saw was, you have to check my math, was that most people who study the brain don't think multitasking is really possible. And they will say like maybe there's like 5% of the population who might actually be able to do it.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the population just absolutely cannot.
Well, what are we doing realistically? I think when we say the word multitasking, it's like, oh, I'm doing two things at once. But that's really not what's happening.
Right.
There may be two things going on at once. And so you feel like you just said, like, all right, I'm on this call, but I'm not on the call.
Right. No, I'm not paying attention to the call while I'm doing the other thing that I'm doing on the call. I'm paying attention to that and not the call.
Right. It's almost like, let's put on some background music. That's what the call is.
Right.
The call is just background music that every once in a while we're going to pull away. I think we need to admit to ourselves that we're accepting the fact that when we decide to go down the road of multitasking, we're accepting the fact that one of the things that is on that list or whatever, they're just not happening.
Right. We're going to fail.
We're not going to cross them off.
And we could potentially fail all of them because we're dividing our attention. Divided we fail, right? Divided we fall.
Divided we fail, yeah. Or fall.
Divided we fail, divided we fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can say it anyway.
Because it's really what we're doing is we're not focused on, if we're trying to give both things attention or more than two, we're not really giving either one the attention that it requires for success.
But we do it because we feel like we're overwhelmed with the amount of things that are on our list. And we just want to get through them. So we're like, all right, well, what I'll do is I'll fit this in while I'm doing that. And it inevitably will, I'll be able to check both of them off.
Right. Or you're trying to prioritize, or you're trying to do things that are kind of similar. Like if you're trying to say, like, for example, I'm writing like 3 email campaigns and I try to do them all at the same time. Right.
Right.
Because it's like the same task, but it's not really. So that's part of it. And then part of it's the priority, right? It's like the Zoom is not taking my priority. I'm going to put my priority on this thing, but I know I have to do the Zoom.
Yeah.
Or, like when you're working with multiple clients, I think is a big part of it too. You know what I mean? Or if you're running a business, you have 3 or 4 customers in at the same time. You come and help all of them. You know, and then you're pissed off on the customer side, right? If you walk into like the AT&T store and they're helping somebody
what
else,
a
you're
great
like,
example.
you can't just leave him for 2 seconds
What
while
a
you're
great
downloading
example.
his contacts onto the iPhone and come over here and just help me find a case that fits my phone because I can't see it like right now, like I'm missing something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's like, and actually that's probably the better way to do it.
Yeah.
Right, is to give that person their full attention, make sure that they're taken care of, and then to deal with me. If they tried to deal with all of us, then we would all be pissed off.
Right. Yeah, because you know how you're down the rabbit hole. You don't know how long that one thing's going to last or
Yeah.
how it's going to. But that example was absolutely fantastic because I'll walk up to the door if I have to go into the dreaded cell phone store. I'll walk up to the door, and if there is more than one person there, I'm out.
Right.
I don't even go in because I can't. I don't have the patience or time for that. To me, so from a listener standpoint, well, what's the solution here, right? So if multitasking isn't the best solution all the time, and I think there are times this does work, but we are recognizing that one of the things, like I said, it works if we recognize that one of the 2 things we think we're balancing, we just got to say, all right, we don't give a shit about it.
Right.
It's just going to happen. And so we can do it when that's the case.
Yeah.
Right?
You can't do 2 things well at once.
No,
But you can do one thing really well and then one thing terribly.
And I think and I think where people fail is they fail because they misjudge that thing that they throw into the multitasking box and how much the failure of it is going to impact. So what I see, and we'll get to this more in some of the other blunt force facts, is one, what happens? Well, you make stupid mistakes. That's number one, because you'll be in a moment where you have to transition for whatever reason. Hey, I was on mute or what, you get called really quickly. You're on an hour-long meeting of which you had to really engage for 5 minutes, but during that 5-minute time, whatever was happening on the other side gets interrupted.
How often have you used that excuse? Like, oh, why did you make a mistake here? I'm sorry, I was trying to do 2 things at once.
All the time.
Yeah, how many times does that get said in life?
In cooking.
Yeah.
This happens all, really good cooks use tools to make sure, they're not just in their mind.
Or they have multiple people working with them.
They have people working for them. They have timers.
Here's your one task. Here's your task.
Right?
Yep.
When that goes off, that's done. When this goes off, this done. So is it multitasking? Yes, but using support systems in order to effectively break from one thing, focus on the next, break from this, focus on next. And it's structured that way. And one of the things I would recommend to our listeners as a way to start and actually be a good, quote unquote, multitasker is time blocking.
Right.
And I mean, real serious time blocking is about going back to the calendar and saying 15 minutes on this, 15 minutes on that, 30 minutes. I'll have some ridiculous shit in my calendar. If I know I got an email to send out to someone, it'll be like that I'll put a block of 15 minutes in there. All right. We're going to compose. That's what we're doing during that time. And then the next time we're doing this and the next time we're doing that. Time blocking really helps me with just saying I'm going from this to this to this, and then making adjustments throughout my day. If something does get missed in there, moving it and then making priority adjustments, right? And just getting away from, I'll just do that when I'm in the car. I'll make that call in the car. Okay, all right, maybe we can do that, but are we really focusing? If we're focusing on driving and trying to listen, if it's an important client, are we really and if we aren't note-taking, or if we're not doing things to ensure that we're grabbing the key things of that conversation, I've done that many times with consults in the past. Inevitably, my consult follow-up's usually very good because I'm at my desk, paper, pen, recording the conversation if it's on Zoom, right? And then taking key points. I'm typing responses while I'm meeting with the person. I'm creating a follow-up email while I'm meeting. It's a great experience for the client. When I take that in the car, not taking notes, trying to remember stuff, I pull over after usually and I write down what I remember. If I miss it, I think I'm doing a good job. If I'm honest with myself, I'm not doing as good of it. I'm not giving them what they deserve when I'm not in the car. So always preface that.
I mean, what you've really done is you recognize that you can't actually multitask then. You're not really multitasking, which is the point.
Right.
You're separating the tasks and doing them at separate times.
Yeah.
But you're organizing it so you can get more done.
Yeah. Focus on the road, listen to the conversation, and be thinking and respond. Like that's a lot. It's a lot.
Driving and doing anything is a bad idea, and I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And especially when people are, relying on us for our attention, expertise, it's a simple thing. We don't often think about it as multitasking because, I'm just on. Well, you're doing a lot of other shit at the same time too.
What's blunt force fact number 2?
I don't know. I'm exhausted. See that? See how I did that?
I got it.
Blunt force fact number 2 is overtasked is overtired.
That's how I feel.
Right now.
Yes. Overtasked is overtired.
Yeah.
I definitely feel that way.
Yeah.
And it's like that's part of it when you try and do multiple things at once. And again, like you're drained by every one thing that you're trying to do at once, but also the fact that you might even be stressed about the fact that that you're not giving each thing the correct amount of attention. Like it's all acts to just make you drained. And I know sometimes I don't always deal with it the right way. Sometimes I have to put everything down. Right? It's like I'm trying to do 6 things at once.
Yep.
And instead of doing any of them, I have to put them all down and take a break because it's just mentally draining. Right?
Your brain is a massive consumer of glucose when you're like working. Like it is sucking up. Physically, we might feel like, I didn't get any exercise today. And, I'm sitting, my muscles don't feel exercised, right? We feel kind of like whatever that is that we feel. We feel like lazy or whatever. But you can sit in a chair all day and go home and be exhausted. And that exhaustion is because when your brain is working hard, it's like, and it's not relaxed. It's thinking, processing, adjust it, like going from one task to the other. It is smoking through glucose.
Right.
And
it's almost like when you use your phone or you use your PC or your MacBook or whatever you got, and it heats up.
Yeah.
It's because it's trying to do multiple things at once. Absolutely. It's the same thing. Like that's why it heats up. It's like trying to do all these different things. Like it's got this one program that's running fast, but meanwhile you've got your email program up, and you've got your word processor program up, and you've got your internet browser is searching for things, and it's like all of a sudden the phone in your hand is hot. It's because that's what's happening. It's overheating.
Absolutely.
Trying to do multiple things at once.
And to that first point, we started talking about it, and as business owners, the worst thing we can do is make mistakes. Like you're never going to get it all right, but if you're putting yourself in a constant position where because of the way you're doing stuff, you're making mistakes. I work with people all the time who I can tell, and I've come to expect that they are going to ask me something 2 or 3 times, even in email. Like I'll get these emails and I'm like, oh, you're all over the place. That I know it the minute you send it to me. I'm like, that was so clearly communicated, and you missed that because you're just everywhere. And it comes through as in a simple question, right? So we got to be conscious of the fact that when we're doing this, our miss rate is going to go up.
Right.
Our mistakes are going to go up. We forgot that key detail because we were trying to balance, this and that and do them together and just get a task list it off. And this is the battle of the biggest battle, I think, is every small business right now, starting up, growing, and not even small, like maybe a couple $1 million company, and you're trying to grow to a $10 million company. This is your battle, right? How do we scale up? How do I manage all the pieces while I'm trying to put pieces in place to take certain things off of me? And this is not going to go away, but the worst thing we can do is pretend like we're good at it and we're killing it, doing it. But when people look at what you do and say, wow, you do a lot of stuff. Like, how do you do all that stuff? It ain't because of this. It's 100% because of good time management and blocking off time and being efficient in making smart, good transitions from one thing to the other rather than like sporadic. I got so many things going at once that external stimuli is going to determine when I transition.
Yeah.
And now I got to reset, refocus, as opposed to the scheduling part. It's a control factor, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Like I'm now taking control over when my brain's going to now move on.
Yeah.
And then move on. And if we don't have a good schedule like that, then we just have this pile of work.
We just get burnt out.
Yeah, and the phone rings, and so now we're on this. And now when my phone rings, if I'm not on it, then I just block it somewhere.
Right.
Like, all right. Like almost 90% of the time, I can block it somewhere. It does not have to be done right now.
I think a good lesson. This is a practice I've tried to kind of adopt too, is to just not take calls sometimes. And that's not to say like, like if I know like it's a work related call and I know that I'm in the middle of something else, rather than even take it, just let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Right. In any event, like I feel like just the idea of having multiple things going on at once, it's not just the work, it's also the stress. It's like the idea that like, one of these things I know is going to not go correctly because I'm trying to do this all in this short period of time, and that stress makes it even more exhausting. So spread it all out. Well, don't spread it out, but schedule it out. Do it separately, not at the same time.
Have we not?
And you can't actually do it, right?
No. Have we not set an unrealistic precedent for being available all the time? It's fucking ridiculous.
Right.
Like, I can love that guy. You can get me. I have people that say that to me all the time, like that I do business with, like, get me anytime. Like, that's ridiculous. Right. You're not going to get me every time because I like what you just said. Yeah. I think it's important to say, I'll get to that call later.
Yeah.
Right? It's not my mom or my kids. We're all set.
Right.
And sometimes I'm definitely not answering it. Good stuff.
I think a good excuse is to say, like, look, if you've got someone you report to and says, hey, I was trying to get in touch with you, say I was doing something. And you can tell them exactly what you're doing. I was doing this, it required my full attention. If you want me to get it done correctly, send me a text. I'll get in touch with you when I'm ready.
Blunt force fact number 3 in why you're not good at multitasking. This one made me happy because I feel good about myself. Blunt force fact number 3 today is size doesn't matter. Don't be nasty.
You one of those people who shows all their tabs on their browser and it's like a flex?
Look at all the things I'm doing right now.
Yeah, it's like, I'm so important. Look at all the things I got going on at once. I didn't do it all. Look at me.
13 screens.
Look at the size of my freaking RAM exposure on the computer.
Look at my RAM size.
Because we can handle so much. I got the iPhone Max Plus because it can multitask.
Oh, that's great. No, but it's...
I have so many tabs open on my phone browser that they don't number anymore. It's like a little brownie face. It's like, we're sad you have so many tabs open. It's like stops the numbering at some point. Yes. It's like because the numbers can't fit into it anymore.
This is a Patrick Marino, I got to fix thing, right? We all admit that
the only reason we even do this podcast is therapeutic for me.
It's not just you, therapeutic for me, but the reality is that we need quality of our task is going to dictate the type of business we are way more than quantity of our task. So when a company tries to lean and, we are efficient and that's great. The number one focus before you even go down that road is how are we doing that without losing quality? Because there aren't companies out there I shouldn't say that. There are times where they'll make a conscious decision that, all right, we're going to sacrifice a little bit of quality in this thing because we need a little more than quality.
We have a deadline. We have to get something out there. We have to do something.
But those decisions are made very thoughtfully. They're made usually, right? So that's not what we're talking about here. Because what we're talking about here is that you go about your day-to-day and you are forced into all this stuff.
Well, not just forced. You take it on. And you think that you're doing better. I think a lot of people who quote unquote multitasking, which is not even a thing, right? It doesn't even exist. For most people, can't do it. And And by most, I mean like not like most, like 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10, 10 out of 10 people can't multitask. But what we'll do is we think that because we're trying to do a bunch of things at the same time that we're getting more stuff done.
Yeah.
And that makes us better at our jobs, more like whatever it is. Like that's again, like it's like size doesn't matter, right? It's not a flex to be trying to do 16 things at once. Like nobody's impressed. Or if they are impressed, they shouldn't be, because if you're trying to do 16 things at once, there's no way you're doing 16 things well.
Nobody feels like you give a shit about them when you do that.
Right.
I mean, I had real interesting to me a moment that this was a clear like differentiator for me in a direction that my company went. When we were looking at onboarding business brokerage as a part of the work we do, I had 2 phone calls. And one was a gentleman who was the CEO of this one company, and one was a gentleman who was moving over to this other company and was interested in me going that way with him. Out of the 2, I made my decision on one factor. When I was on the phone with the first, who was the CEO of the company, I could tell he was working on something else while he was talking to me. It was clear, like could hear the typing, could hear the pauses that shouldn't have been pauses. Every once in a while, a response didn't really mimic what I said, or it was like, you know, a standard response you could just say to move the conversation along without a direct response. You know what I mean? Like, there were like 3 or 4 points where I'm like, oh, like he's like, that's how important I am. I'm so important that he's not breaking from the thing to consider this. That was it. Right. It was very clear. The first company was more established. There probably would have been some additional benefits for me going that route. Had got on a second call. It was personable. It was engaging. It was more of like a, hey, let's just have a chat. I felt I liked the person. They didn't have the security of, hey, we're moving over this new thing. I think it's going to be good. I'm like, yeah, but at least you give a shit, right? At least you care about me, and you're like, and that was it. Clearest decision I ever made. It had nothing to do with anything else other than that first person made me feel like they had something better to do. Simple as that.
Or you try and do it with your kids.
Yeah.
You try and do work while spending time with your kids.
Oh, that's the worst.
That doesn't work.
No.
You're not spending enough time with either.
No,
because you can't actually multitask.
And then they call you out. Then they call you out on it. They're like, you think you're like, hey, I'm with my kid, and so you think you're checking that box, and they look at you like, are you gonna?
I've given this example before, but I coach my little guys, my little local group, my little town group, and like one of the dads is like super engaged. Like it's the only kid. He's super engaged. He's like there early, not there. He's the most engaged dad, maybe too engaged, like super engaged. And he's on his phone during the practice sometimes. And like the kid said something like, my dad's never paying attention. He's always on his phone. Like he's the most paying attention. He's the most paying attention dad of the whole group.
Your dad is the mostest.
By far. Yes. You know what I mean? But like in the kid's mind.
Right.
Yeah. So multitasking just doesn't work.
Nope.
It's not a thing.
Ever watch a movie with your kids? You pick up your phone, they look right at you like, what the fuck? Movie. Unfortunately, my kids do say, what the fuck? What the fuck, Dad? Movie. Like, you're 6. Come on, chill out.
So let's wrap it up.
All right, great stuff. 3 blunt force facts about multitasking and why you need to be conscious of the fact that
you are actually multitasking.
You're not good at it, and more than likely it's going to hurt you rather than help you. Blunt force fact number 1, divided we fall.
Or divided we fail.
Or divided we fail, either one. Blunt force fact number 2, overtasked is overtired. Great way to just smoke yourself out and just start doing stuff.
Overheat your phone.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Overheat your brain. And blunt force fact number 3, size doesn't matter. You're not impressing anyone.
All my tabs don't impress anybody.
No. But
they just frustrate people as I move around from tab to tab looking for what I need to share on the Zoom call.
But your RAM does. I'm Brian LaFauci.
Patrick Marino.
Until next time.
Thank you.